It's, there we go. There was not only did we not know what the hell was going on visually, they weren't understanding audibly because we had some audio issues. So let's correct that. Yes, this is Jim Majors, not some book.
Okay, is this better for the audio?
Well, keep it through the meats.
Oh, through the meats. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, now they can hear us. Yes, so yes, this is the wonderful Dr. Jim Majors, who did get his PhD. I have called him Dr. Majors now 3 or 4 times now, and it's starting to hurt. But I am so proud of you, man. I am so proud of you.
Thanks,
So tell people first of all what you actually completed your PhD in.
Yeah, so my PhD is in biblical studies, Hebrew Bible. My area of focus was in Danielic literature. I wrote my dissertation on the methodology and the purpose behind the selection of the early court tales in the book of Daniel by the 2nd century redactor.
I don't even know what the hell he just said, but it sounds smart.
Basically, why the book of Daniel was written.
Don't spoil it for me.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
That's okay.
No, tell me what it is. I'm just giving you crap. What is it?
No, I mean, just so the book of Daniel it's not one cohesive piece of work. It is a piece of work, however, but it can generally be understood as occurring during 2 separate periods. One underneath the period of anti-king persecution in the mid-2nd century BCE, and then you have the rest of it, which was pretty much from the 3rd century back to 5th century, maybe 6th century BCE, and they were what's known as chapters 2 through 6, circulated. Probably not as a cohesive group, but as probably individual literary works. And they were later redacted and compiled by the 2nd century author of Daniel.
So they definitely weren't of single authorship.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Are there people out there that claim it was?
Yes, there are.
Okay. They're wrong.
People that claim that it was written by Daniel living in the 6th century who really saw the fall of Jerusalem to the Babylonians, who saw the fall of Babylon to the Persians, or the Medes, if you are to take Daniel at face value. But yeah.
Are there the similar people that think the Earth is 6,000 years old? Some of them, maybe.
Yeah. I unfortunately, I think there's probably more people who think that the book of Daniel was written in the 6th century than there are who think the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Okay, well. Anyways, Kawasa for 10,000 won. He says, I didn't know Jim got his doctoral degree. Congratulations. How could you not know? He's been telling everybody, like everywhere, and he should. It's something to brag about.
Well, I haven't really been anywhere. I mean,
That's true. You don't go anywhere. But I do have you on here, and we're gonna have a call-in show. We're gonna have people that want to call in and talk to you and ask you about exactly what you just said, which I have no clue about because I am a biblical idiot. I don't know much about the Bible. I have no interest in the Bible. I get it. Look, the people that study the Bible, whether they're theist or atheist or agnostic or whatever, I don't care. And they enjoy it and they treat it as history. I get that. I think that's wonderful. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I didn't know that there was any specific topic for this call-in show until I just looked at the title, and I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I did ask you. In fact, I put it in the video description. I asked you if you watched Notes from Autumn's video. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. If anybody can ask whatever questions they want.
The way we usually do the discussion table is we'll pick like a single kind of topic, or in most shows that we do, even like Judgment Call, we'll pick like a single topic to have kind of a focal point, but it diverges from that rapidly, and it doesn't have to even do with anything. Usually we'll start like 10 minutes talking about that, then we'll invite people to call in and they can talk about that or anything they want. That way we're not isolated on any single thing, and people can call in and they can try to convert us to Christianity, Islam, atheism, whatever. It makes no difference. Whatever they want to talk about. But I did want to start off with another kerfluffle within the atheist community, on the atheist community of Austin, dealing with a lot of the 501c3 nonprofit aspects as far as transparency and the funding. And I think that's actually a pretty good topic. Now, I go after the ACA because I just think they're a dishonest organization any longer. I think they had good agenda, maybe 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was when they started. But, they've had so many losses and so many things that are just motivated by politicism and egotism than it is anywhere having to do with promoting of atheism. Matter of fact, I haven't seen promotion of atheism that show for, any time in the last century, a decade.
It's been about the same for me.
Yeah.
I watch, if one of my friends are on there, if Neil's on, or if Dr. Josh or somebody like that,
Neil, the 504 atheist.
Yeah.
And look, I got no problem with him. He's like my daddy. He just doesn't recognize, because of.
I don't have a problem with most of the people. It's whenever it's I don't know. It's just the cohesive attitude of the amalgamation that is the atheist community of Austin that I have a problem with.
Correct, and a lot of people are seeing that. I mean, I've been sounding that
on
for ages.
I mean, I've hung out with Matt a few times, and personally, and I think he's a great guy.
And he probably is personally, but unfortunately, you know that I think Matt is intellectually dishonest.
Well, yeah, I mean and you're entitled to that opinion. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I don't have the same interaction that you do, or the same experience that you do. So
you did, though, check out her video, and I guess she was on a show called The Line, which I don't watch. I don't know if that's an ACA show or a Jimmy Snow show. I don't remember.
I think it's both.
Is it?
I think it's something that Jimmy Snow and Matt Dillahunty, I want to say, put together as kind of a call-in show.
And you've heard, I don't know if you're familiar, but I've heard about the recent things with Jimmy going on. Not going to get too much into it unless people call in on it, but he's had some issues. And correct me if I'm wrong. I pointed out those issues well over a year ago when he backed Kyle, and he, illegally, well, I shouldn't say illegally, unethically streamed to my channel, and all that. So,
I've had my own run-ins as well. So
yeah, exactly. So I think there was something to be said by Autumn's leaving the line and not letting them kind of push her around. Because I do think that the ACA is run like a religion. I think it is run like a church. It doesn't mean that atheism is religion. It's not. But I see a lot of similarities. How they have the lay clergy, how they have a lack of transparency in their fundings.
They can say that it's not a religion all they want, but it cannot be said that they do not have their own definition of heresy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I spoke against Armin, and I have no personal issue with Armin Ra. I mean, we used to get along fantastic, and I think he's a smart guy when it comes to biology, really good, one of the best for phylogeny. But in philosophy, everybody knows he's horrible. I mean, nobody takes him seriously in philosophy. And so, when I say, hey, look, Armin, I think you have some issues here, and he takes it very personally, and because of that, he wants something to do with me. I'm labeled a heretic against the Church of the ACA. Right. Same with Matt Dillahunty, who just says I'm wrong by fiat. He never explains why any of my arguments are wrong, but
the issues that arise with that kind of realization is that not everybody has those experiences. Some people, they see him through a YouTube screen and they think that he's just a great debater, or they might have even met him in person and they think that he's a great guy. And I love Armin. Armin's another guy I'd like to hang out with.
I think it'd be great to hang out with. It's unfortunate.
The best beer in his ice chest.
Dude, I would have killed to have a beer with Armin. It's a shame that he's just so arrogant and won't. What
was one? I have one with him called like Dirty Dog Sucker or something like that.
Yeah, he has some like old beer name. Yeah,
it was a weird one.
Yeah, I would love to try that with him. But
basically what I'm getting at is, with whatever is going on, whether it be with Matt, with Armin, with Autumn, with Jimmy, the problem is that there's not always enough context. Never. Even when you provide it, it's not enough because the people providing the context don't have the context.
Yeah, no, and you're probably right on that. Not everybody knows the details. Like, for example, when it came to the Jimmy Snow, Kyle Curtis, and non sequitur thing, I, of all people, know more detail about that than anybody on this planet. And nobody can tell me otherwise. And I don't expect other people to know everything that I know about it. But there are people that know a hell of a lot. I mean, most of my chat knows most about it.
The people who were speaking the most about it are the people who knew the least. The people who were shutting the fuck up. They didn't know the full story.
That is a very good point, dude. Can you repeat that again? Because that's worth repeating. You were exactly right on that.
Yeah, I've of course, come forward and supported you, but only to the extent that my context allowed me to consciously support publicly, because let's face it, I didn't have the full context, at least not enough to where I felt confident enough to make a playlist on,
Yeah, well, you do realize Kyle lied about everything now.
Well, of course, and I came out publicly and said, "Fuck you, Kyle."
Yeah, but it's funny you mentioned the word heresy because we're talking about how a lot of people that just, if you don't agree with the ACA, you don't agree with Matt or Armin, they will label you a heretic kind of thing. They'll persecute you. They've gone after me personally rather than my arguments. Yeah, exactly. Cancel culture. But it's funny is there actually was an argument about the word heretic.
Really?
Yes, there was an argument. I'm not even fronting. There was an argument that the ACA was having, or Matt was having, with pagans like Ocean Keltoy in the pagan community about the usage of the word heretic.
It was about heathen.
Oh, was it? I'm sorry, you're right. Heathen. Okay, whatever. Does it really? Okay, similar word. But the point's the same, right? Because a heathen is a heretic. So, I mean, for example, when I hear the word heathen, that's just somebody like doesn't believe the dogma, right? Doesn't believe the gospels or whatever. It's a word. If you want to be a heathen, and that's a pagan, a Norse pagan or whatever, that's a heathen. I don't know how the ACA thought that could be anything different from that. Why would they?
Well, because to the pagans, it's not the same. Where it's like some people might see, whereas all pagans are heretics. Well, not all heretics are pagan.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. But that's weird. That's a weird thing. That's a weird hill to die on.
It is, but then again, so is atheism versus agnosticism.
That's true, but they're dying, and they think I'm dying on that hill. That's the funniest part.
Love you.
That's the funniest thing. They think I'm dying on that hill. Matter of fact, people kept sending me a clip, and it's like I've seen it a few times now. You don't need to send it to me. I'm not going to do a review on it. But Matt was just like saying that he blocked me because I was quote a dog with a bone. I'm like, no, you blocked me because you couldn't out argue with me. As simple as that. He had no refutation of my argument.
Right.
So, Ange Frida says, a heathen is not a heretic. A heretic is a member of the church, but refuses to accept the doctrine of the church. Well, yeah, but so is a heretic. But, I mean, they're not maybe exactly the same, but they're definitely synonymous. And maybe you can't exactly put one for the other in ecclesiastical terms, but as far as like what I'm a heathen and I'm a heretic, right? I left the Mormon church. I'd be a heretic in the Mormon church, and I'm a heathen because I don't have any religion. So to a Christian, I would be a heathen, would I not?
It depends on who you're talking to. To a Christian, yeah, you would be a heathen. Like say if you were in early Christianity, say if you were a Hellenistic Jew. who had just come out of Babylonian exile, maybe like second generation out of Babylonian exile, and you were in Jerusalem, and you ate food with Gentiles. You communed with them. You weren't circumcised. They might refer to you as a heathen, but to a Germanic pagan, you wouldn't be a heathen because that's.
Yeah. No, I totally look. I completely agree. It's relative. It's relative to whatever organization, but that's why they seem to be upset by the use of the word, heathen. Like they're like hot talk heathen, right?
Right. I think that's dumb. It's so I think that it's dumb for the, and I'm going to say just his mom. It's dumb for the heathens to get mad about it.
It's dumb for both to get mad about it. Just do your thing. I know. I actually kind of understand the heathens getting upset by it.
It's like, oh, you mean to tell me that your worldview is misunderstood by some people, and it's often conflated for something else? You poor thing. It doesn't happen to anybody ever.
Nobody goes through that.
That never happens.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, everybody seems to suffer the same when it comes to.
Maybe there's a lesson to be learned here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's a heretic to everybody else. Everybody's a heathen to somebody else. People that don't believe what I believe, I mean, I don't treat them like a heathen or a heretic because I don't have any doctrine. I just think a lot of people are, I hate to say it, but are uneducated in certain topics that pontificate on things they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And you, as a PhD in a certain scholarly field, has probably seen the exact same thing from a biblical standpoint.
I just, treat them as the dirty, idealistic transgressors of the faith that they are,
But here's the difference. We don't believe people are going to go to hell if they have different opinions and beliefs. Even if the beliefs are wrong, which most of the time they are, we don't believe that they're going to hell,
Right.
And we don't ostracize them.
And they aren't, at least not for me. For me, their beliefs and their worldview is not so integrated into my personal beliefs and my family history and my growing up that it's literally ingrained into my being. I'm not suffering any sort of psychological, misgivings because of that. So it's easier for me to accept them, talking about their stuff, and I really don't care about it because, and it's also not my field of expertise. So it's like, okay, you want to worship a one-eyed guy who's got a pet hawk or whatever, that's cool. It's fine. Cool.
Now, Frida makes a good comparative thing here, and I'm not disagreeing with him, by the way. He says to be a Christian, a heathen would be a non-Christian. I agree. A heretic would be an example of a Catholic preaching what the Pope calls false doctrine, and I agree with that as well. But what happens if you have a heretic who's an ex-Catholic? Well, now they're an ex-Christian as well, so they're a heretic and a heathen. They're excommunicated. Preaching false doctrine, not even a Christian any longer. I mean, so there is some overlap in these terms, but yes, I think more specifically, those will have the terms are used. But again, I'm a heretic to the ACA.
Right, though, like the Catholics, they didn't depend on you to say that your view is wrong and that you didn't want to be in the club. They'd be like, no, your view's wrong. You can't be in the club.
Yes.
Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm a heretic to the atheist community of Austin.
Yeah,
I really am. I mean, that's how they view me.
If you don't believe that the wine and the bread every Sunday morning turns into the literal body and blood of Jesus Christ, when it's some words are spoken over it, then you're a heretic.
I'm a heretic of the Catholic Church.
And at one point, at bare minimum, you would be branded, or you'd have to wear a yellow cross around your neck and be shunned for the rest of your life, if not killed for it.
Yeah, and I think about those things because look, when it came to like the Eucharist, I always thought that was BS. I mean, even when I was a theist, the Eucharist was just me completely crap.
Only because you had the privilege of living in the 21st century.
No, exactly. No, if I had been living in a different country and a different time, especially, then by having those heretical views, I mean, I could have been put to death for it.
Right. So what's a heretic in your view? Anybody who doesn't worship a big black nothing?
Sure, let's go with that. No, I mean, no, that's just it. I wouldn't have anybody that's a heretic. It's not a term that would be applicable to anything that I have because I don't have any kind of dogma.
Would you say that anybody who doesn't?
I don't shun people because they don't understand certain things.
Well, I'm trying to be calculated in the way I say this because I want to make sure that I say it in a way that's acceptable. But in a in a philosophical setting, during a philosophical conversation, would you consider it a heresy to adopt Anthony Flu's usage of atheism?
No. No, if somebody wants to adopt it, that's fine. It's not heretical or anything. It's just that I think they need to defend. Well, I think they need to defend it. Like, I mean, you read. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I sent you my paper, which is actually a refutation of Flu's paper. It's put in a logical format, but essentially what I did is I took my atheist semantic collapse argument and I applied it toward Flu's argument. And I wrote my paper for that. Hopefully still getting published. I mean, Dr. Malick's trying to get it published, and he's helping me with it. I need to go and edit a few things, minor syntax. And, of course, I have to format it for whatever journal it's being published in if I can get it published. But the argument is legit, I think. Nobody's found a problem with the argument itself. But I don't label a person a heretic if they accept Flu's argument. I just think that, just like anything else, you need to defend your position. Right? When people throw out Flu, most of the people have never read this paper. Two, they don't even recognize that in his paper he admits what I'm arguing in the fact as far as the
majority view goes.
Right, as far as the majority view goes. So when they just quote Flu and they seem to not understand, Flu says, basically, I'll kind of just put it this way. Flu's basically saying Steve's right, but I'm arguing to change it to this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Because I mean, he explicitly says atheism is the belief that God does not exist, but he wants it changed. So,
and now he says that atheism is not a tenable view.
Yeah. And like Barrett Heretic. I mean, his name's Heretic, but what is he a heretic of? Let's find out. Let's open this up. I think, and we'll continue because I still want to get into the 501c3 nonprofit thing because, again, the ACA has not been, I think, forthcoming with their financials now. They don't have to. There's no legal obligation to do so. However, I think that you kind of being a hypocrite when you're asking churches to do certain things that you're not willing to do yourself. And of course, people have said, "Hey, we should tax the churches." I have a problem with that. I'm not completely convinced one way or another. I'm kind of convinced right now that we shouldn't, but I can change my mind on that. And the reason I'm convinced that we shouldn't is because once you start taxing the churches, they no longer are under the Johnson Act that they cannot be involved in politics. And so if you start taxing them, they'll have much more influence on the vote than I would ever want them to have. And so it's kind of a stopgap measure. They still have influence on the vote, don't get me wrong. But I think if we tax them, it would just that safety measure is now obliterated. But would it be made up for by maybe from other things or get revenue? Who knows? But anyways, Kawasa 5001, not to mention, quote, heretic just has a bad vibe. Let's never use that word again.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, yeah, he's referring to a specific heretic.
It's exclusive.
Well, I think he's referring to a specific nut job that goes by heretic.
Well, it's just exclusive. It's just putting up a fence where there doesn't need to be one. It's saying that you're not me, and that therefore heretic. It's not a clean word. It's inherently dirty.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be meant to be a pejorative, but also some people do use it as, yeah, I'm a heretic because I don't conform to your BS, right? I mean, if you're somebody who is let's say you are an anti-theist and you think that all religion is harmful, you're like, look, I'm a heretic to all religion. I don't want to have anything to do with it's a statement that they're making, and I have nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with making a statement by taking a certain uses of a term and use it to your advantage. Look, I have occult symbolism. Doesn't make me like a Satanist. I don't even believe in the occult, but I like the symbolism, right?
I'm anti-theist, but I wouldn't say I don't say that all expressions of religion are bad. But what I do say is that there's nothing that religion provides us that cannot be provided by some other source without the negative baggage.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that as well. That everything that religion does, we can find through
the spectrum of negative.
Yeah, we can find through like humanistic things. Let me get the PIN number on here real quick and the phone number.
What was that? Did somebody just do a drive-by Discording?
What was that?
I just heard somebody go blow out their mic.
No.
Oh.
I think it's on your end.
Not maybe so.
All right, there we go. Yeah. All right, you guys should be able to get the phone number now and be able to call in. So Bearded Heretic and everybody else call in if you like. So AT2 says, yeah, I was about to say that the quote church already has a lot of influence on voters regardless of their tax exempt status. And that's true. And that's one of the reasons why I would change my mind if I could be persuaded that the good outweighs the bad of giving them taxing them, right? If we're giving them the tax exemption, I understand why we do it, and there are reasons for it. And eliminating that has hefty repercussions. And I don't think people had fully thought that through. Right now, that they cannot promote certain specifically promote certain candidates in certain ways, right?
But at the same time, they're not held accountable. They're not held accountable for their violations of separation of church and state. There's only been one successful investigation and conviction by the IRS of mishandling 501c donations or disclosure or anything like that. But churches just aren't, they aren't pressured. My horse sanctuary, I have an agricultural exemption. I have a tax exemption for it, but I would get investigated way quicker than a church would, just because they have, because the IRS is still obligated to uphold the separation of church and state, even if the church doesn't.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt you for that. I think you're probably absolutely right, and it is unfortunate because I do think that the churches are not held accountable as much, and we know. Look, we know that churches mismanage. Well, not all of them, but many churches mismanage their funds, and a lot of times, you have the people that are supposed to be, most of it's supposed to be nonprofit, and they get a stipend or they get a certain amount of living expenses. But these people are driving around in Mercedes. These people are flying, in Gulfstreams. There's a problem with that.
Right. I actually posted a study, pardon me, and it was based on a lot of different studies, but essentially it was the giving statistics that were done by the National Study of Congregations' Economic Practices, and come to find out that the churches in the United States are the largest recipient group of charitable donations at 29%, which put about nearly $126 billion a year. Now, of their donations, 72% of it is spent on personnel and the worship facility, so the maintenance of the church and the people who run it. Which is 30 to 50% more than other charities do. So of that $126 billion, you know how much is actually spent on outreach and humanitarian aid?
Probably less than a couple percent.
2.8%.
Yeah.
And of that 2.8%, it's an even smaller fraction of charity, of people like homeless. And one of the other studies, there's 500,000 plus people homeless in the world at any one point in time. And it would take several have estimated, but the high end that I see, it would take $20 billion to cure homelessness. And church donors alone can do this, but the dollars are flowing through the church first. So these churches that are closed 200 plus days out of the year, that are climate controlled, that have soft padded seats, they have people sleeping on the sidewalk and in front of the doors, while the doors are locked.
Yeah, it made no sense. Yeah, well, Autumn kind of points that out in her video, something similar, that she mentions that, in the bylaws or whatever, the mission statements and things of that nature for the ACA, it is outreach. It literally is outreach to community. And yet so little of that is actually done comparative to whatever else that money is going to. And as you said, even the churches. Yeah, I don't know what the actual breakdown was, but they don't put their numbers out, so you don't really know. But
there's a lot of overhead in charities.
A lot of overhead.
A lot of overhead, but I'll say a lot of the donations go to overhead. Very rarely will you find a charity who is doing well enough that they have a surplus of money.
But isn't that kind of a problem? If look, I understand that you need some kind of maintenance. I understand you need a building, but you don't need a mega church, right? You could scale that down.
If people are fine with wearing masks and going on YouTube every Sunday morning.
Look, I got virtual churches.
Then why do we need churches?
Yeah, no, virtual church. Let's call it a virtual church.
If my grandpa can go into his closet every morning and receive the Holy Spirit, I can hear him talking in tongues muted. If my grandpa can do that, anybody can do that.
Yeah, no, I got you. So you're saying, look, they don't even need a building
No, they don't even need it. So all that money, that 70-something% that's going towards personnel and upkeep of these facilities that aren't even being used, they could actually build facilities for the use of housing the homeless, for feeding the hungry.
Yeah, I think obviously that depends on the type of religion.
Orphans that aren't holes in the behind the orphanage.
But I mean, obviously, there's some religions that believe that you do need more of a congregation, you do need more of a fellowship, you do need more missionary stuff. So there's really not one size fit all. However, I get your point is that, look, if there was more independent practitioners where they don't need an organized religion and it's just between you and God, then all that money that they're spending giving it to some church where it's just going to like pay upkeep,
exactly,
it can be used for something more productive and more effective.
Exactly.
I'm all for that.
We have to pay for their free coffee and Danishes in the morning, and we have to pay for their fog machine and their rock band.
Yeah. Hey, look, Danish and coffee, I'm all for. Don't need a rock band.
But it's not going to the homeless. I mean, if
don't take away the coffee from the homeless.
Most of the time, they'll avoid you. But in the times that they do, come up and they'll meet you, they'll make sure that you sit in the back away from everybody, where you don't stick up the place too much.
Yeah. I mean, they're not there for. Look, I'm not disillusioned, or I'm not under the disillusionment that these churches are giving a crap about the homeless. They're not. It's just, come on.
Right.
I mean, there are some. There are some honest, really good soup kitchens and things of that nature, and some of them might be run by religious organizations. And I think there are some great people that run those. I've done my share of things in food banks, and they really do want to give food to people and help people. So it's not that, but when you have these kind of like more prevalent churches where they say invited to come in and worship and things of that nature, it's not about salvation. It is about the collection plate, and that to me is what I find disturbing.
Well, my problem is that there are multiples more Christians who believe that it is the church's duty to provide charity for those lesser than them, for the least of these, for the poor, for the orphan, for the widowed, and there are multiples more of them who believe that is a church's purpose for existing than there are people who actually practice it. And even the people who believe it, they won't condemn their church for not doing it.
Well, I do agree with you though that you don't need a church for that. I mean,
no, you don't.
Yeah, I mean that obviously falls into humanism stuff.
It's
sure.
evident that you can actually provide more for them. Instead of just getting them, cheap tube socks, you can give them some nice, close-fitting Dickies. Some really good socks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, one of the reasons I've even looked into like secular humanism and the humanism movement is because of certain things like that. Now, do I agree with a lot of their philosophies? Not all of them per se. No, not by any stretch of imagination. But I understand the motivation. There's some humanists out there that I adore, like Christy Santiago is a prime example of
awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome, and she promotes secular humanism in a very cogent way, right?
Yeah, and consistent, and she's actually, she's not just preaching to the choir.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually trying to build momentum in that area.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just I think as a political movement, it has some merit. As a philosophical movement, might have some issues, but
it's what needs to happen, because Christianity has fooled everybody into believing that they are actually helping people. They've built up this facade over the years that's just gold flake and whatever the hell the priest wears, and it's just all filler. It's just all fluff. It's whitewashed, but it doesn't take much to scrape the paint and see the shit underneath. But the problem is that nobody wants to touch their own paint.
Okay, well, doesn't the ACA have that same problem though? I mean,
yes, that's my point. Nobody wants to touch their own paint. Exactly.
By the way, Smitty, you cannot have Christy Santiago and be in love with Cheshire. It doesn't work that way. You don't get both. Back off, Christy.
Never probably knows me.
Yeah. No, you don't have to back off Christy. Smitty has to. He only get Cheshire. He's not worthy enough for Christy Santiago. Nobody is. Christy, you got to admit though, Christy is an amazing spokesperson for this stuff. So.
Yeah, and she pulls off the gray hair.
Oh, I know. She rocks that so well. It's amazing. I don't know anybody that has anything ever negative to say about her. Nobody. I think they would be vilified and probably castrated, and they would be a true heretic.
Sean Carroll makes a point. He says, granted, you don't need a church to do good in a town, but a church mobilizes people better, more often than not. Steve McRae, yes, it's because those tax dollars that are flowing through buys those buses and buys those condiments and buys those movie nights and those things that actually pull people in. And if the secular community had that same source of funding, of goodwill, of good faith donations from the community, then it would be spent in a much better way.
Don't they?
It didn't have to go towards propagandizing.
I think they used to call it, was it the Rotary Club? Wasn't that kind of a community outreach thing?
Yeah, the Lions Club,
the
Shriners.
Shriners.
Little cars and the hats. Hell yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a Shriner. No, actually not my dad. My granddad was a Shriner. Yeah. 30.
Did he wear the Persian
I
hat?
don't remember. He's like a 32nd level freaking whatever.
Also, he probably had his own tiny car.
Yeah, I think he was like the highest you can get. I mean, cram.
Did he have a mustache?
I don't remember. I never really got into it. I know he had a Mason ring. He had a black onyx ring with the compass and straight edge.
A Freemason.
Yeah, he was a 32nd level Freemason, which is and a Shriner. I don't remember. I think from what I understand it, you have like 32nd level Freemason, and then you have the Shrine organizations, which is
different
like,
degree.
Yeah, it's like a 33 degree or something. I don't know. Like I said, I never really looked that much into it. I never had any interest in any of those fraternal organizations.
Okay.
I mean, I could have joined the VFW if I wanted to.
Kind of heathens, you know.
Dude, I'm
all
a
Shriners
horrible
are
heathen.
Masons. Not all Freemasons are Shriners.
Yeah, I think Shriners like a special organization within Freemasonry.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the Knights of Columbus. You know how they were just kind of like a more of a split off. I might be wrong though.
Somebody call in and tell us. Lines are open, and that number.
Somebody call in. Period.
Did I not give the right phone number? Because nobody's called in, which is odd. I mean, you got Dr. Jim Majors here, man.
Yeah, ask me questions.
Convert him to Christianity. I want to see that.
Come in and say hi. If I haven't talked to you in a while and we've talked in the past and you're in the chat, then you should definitely pop in. Or if you haven't chatted with me in the past and you've wanted to, now's the time to do it.
Someone has a 33 level paladin. I had a 32 level paladin in AD&D. His name was Straightwind. No, that was my... Yeah, no, Straightwind. Yeah, he was a paladin, Straightwind. Yeah. That was my paladin's name. Lay on hands.
I don't know what I am in millimeters.
Did you play D&D?
I played what?
Did you play D&D?
D&D?
D&D. Dungeons and Dragons.
No. I wanted to though. I've always wanted to, but no, I never did.
Yeah, I had a magic user. I had a ranger, and I had a paladin. Were my three.
I had friends in school that did, but I wasn't allowed to hang out with them. Only hung out with the church families. And then when I was in the Navy, I got reintroduced to it, and there were some guys who were into it, but I was so busy, I just never really had time. Yeah,
my best friend's family was Mormon. That's one of the reasons why I got familiarized with the Mormon Church growing up. But his mom. I mean, seriously, his mom really thought that playing D&D was satanic and wouldn't allow them to play it. So we had to play it kind of in secret. And she, they thought that when you grow up, you'd be like into occult stuff. And I'm like, she was right. But whatever.
I have a theory. Was that family obsessed with Chronicles of Narnia? Because every Mormon family that
they did actually they did.
Yeah,
I mean, in fact,
Mormon family I knew loved it.
But here's the thing. I went to school with my best friend. His name was Morris, and he was Mormon, and we were in a group called Mentally Gifted Minors. It was it later changed to Gifted and Talented Education Gate, but it was called MGM at one time. And one of the things we had to read was Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, believe it or not, in that program. And then I fell in love with it, and I love the Chronicle of Narnia series. I recognize that C.S. Lewis was talking obviously metaphorically about Christianity, but he did so in a way of storytelling was just magnificent.
Right, he did so in a way that makes the Apostles' beavers.
Oh, it's the wrong number. Oh no, it's not the wrong number. So we just called in.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Who do we have?
That would be me.
Hi.
Hello, me.
This me must. Me sounds a lot like AT2 Productions.
That would be correct. I mean, since we already have two Navy guys, why not get a third one into this?
Yeah, it's like Veterans Weekly.
Yeah. But so.
Who's the highest ranking here again? I just throwing that out there.
That doesn't matter. Billet precedes rank anyways.
That's true. Actually, Watch Station does, but yeah. Some Watch Station.
TM was a first class TM for a while, but it got bumped to second. So when I left, I was second. But yeah.
Did you get frocked first class?
I outranked. What's that?
You were frocked first class?
Yeah. I was first class for about 3 weeks.
Nice. Yeah. No, I was frocked first class for about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months, but I never got paid for it because your pay catches up later on. So I didn't get paid for it, but I got to wear the insignia.
I fell in love with a promiscuous woman who lived right off base, and just coming out of Pentecostalism, promiscuous women who liked me were very attractive.
Was it Admiral's daughter?
And so I missed a few duty days and was warned, and missed watch one time because I got assigned with the balls before watch.
Did you ever miss ship's movement?
What's that?
Did you ever miss ship's movement?
Oh no! They were only on base duty days while I was on base.
Yeah, I never had anything like that. Anyways, Jared, what can we do for you?
Oh, first, so like to get the opinion from both of you, because earlier on, Steve, you mentioned the ACA's aversion to just your existence in general. How much of that do you attribute to the number of them that are still there and their history, their personal histories and experience in theism? Specifically, Matt and his time spent in the seminary under the auspices of the clergy to become a clergyman himself.
I'm going to answer that, but I want to hear what Jim says about it first. About his experience with that. Oh, see, he won't answer that question. Run away. Just run away. No, I'm just kidding. Do you want to answer that, or do you want to touch it?
Not unless I have waders on, because that shit's deep.
Okay, so let me kind of so here's the thing. When anybody's had any kind of religious training, I've noticed. Like I never was trained in religion. I mean, I went to some Bible studies, and I went to class before school.
You was trained in religion, but it's like the secret training.
Well, yeah, but I wasn't but I was never studying to be like a minister or clergy or anything like that. I didn't give a crap that much. I wasn't going to go on a mission even when I was Mormon, whatever.
Missionary, Mormon.
But I have noticed people that have been trained in those techniques to preach are some of the most radicalized, atheist people out there, because they just take these techniques and they use them for their own agenda. And I see that obviously with Matt. I think that he has used techniques to manipulate people, and Jimmy's kind of the same way. And instead of having honest discussions, they will basically, like you said, shun people, make a heretic, ostracize like me and other people that can refute their actual arguments. They'd rather go after people where the arguments are kind of not that difficult to refute. I mean, let's be honest. Young Earth creationism is not that hard to refute. Flat Earth is not that hard to refute. Theism, even when a theist runs some arguments, most times the arguments, you can at least assail or show people why they're not great of arguments. But when you have a solid argument, right, and you have, like, for example, Cosmic Skeptic's vegan argument, that's a really good argument. His moral argument for veganism. Is it convincing? No, because I like to eat meat. But that doesn't mean that it's not a bad argument. And Matt just basically crapped on Cosmic Skeptic and blocked him rather than addressing his actual argument. And that's what I see happen. And so what they do is they shun the non-believer that doesn't accept their dogma, and they just say, oh, those are bad people. And they just use manipulation techniques to their audience, saying you don't want to talk to those people. Those people are just wrong. We're not going to explain why they're wrong, but they're just wrong.
In my opinion, it's not that they use the techniques, but like me, I was very much what you would consider an evangelical. I did proselytize. I did try to promote my faith. I had very, very fundamentalist views. And so whenever I did leave Christianity, whenever it came to that tipping point to where it wasn't so much about Christianity or doctrinal positions, but it was about the existence of God and my afterlife, to where once I got past that tipping point, it was like all downhill, and I ran into the arms of positions like Jesus mythicism, because they affirmed my disdain for everything that I had gone through, for pushing me to that extremist view. And I think that a lot of people are hurt, and a lot of people don't know how to heal. They don't know how to come back from that. They don't know how to accept, or they don't know how to live in a world with those evangelical fundamentalist views in any other way other than just sheer, just hate. And I don't blame them for it, because it took me a long time to realize that, a lot of my aversion to, like the historical Jesus, for example, was based on my emotions. I was letting my emotions get in.
Yeah, you were taking more of a visceral thing. So let me ask you, as somebody who's now has studied the Bible, and again, I really haven't, but I mean, I trust a lot of the researchers and things of that nature. I think mythicism is a horrible argument. I think it's misplaced. I think it's the Bayesian. I don't think it's sound a way to approach it. I think Richard Garrier is wrong on that. I just but I don't have the academics behind it to back that. But I certainly know a lot of people that do. But as somebody like yourself, who is an atheist, who's an anti-theist, you think it's all BS. Do you put any merit in mythicism whatsoever?
I mean, I don't think that Jesus was 100% certain to be a historical figure. I believe that there is a historical core of Jesus, and of that historical core, I believe it's about a 70% chance that Jesus existed. But the more layers that you paint on it until you get to the point where Jesus is rising from the dead and walking on water, those are more than a few layers of
I'm with you on that. Look, I don't think that even up to the more supernatural claims, I think a lot of it, like you said, there's layers upon layers. But I think the core itself, was there a centralized person from which these stories are based upon? Yes, I think that's a centralized person. Do I think they're embellished to no end? Yeah, but mythicism, I think, kind of puts the narrative out there. There wasn't even a central core person to begin with, and I think that's wrong, especially taking a Bayesian approach to that. So. But anyways, Jared, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, and it is in line in the read that I've gotten from it, in that they've taken those methods of the theistic side of things and have manipulated it to their own purposes, and do try to run away from appropriate criticism, such as like what they've been doing recently with Autumn, which I agree with Bearded Heretic. She is dead on giving them the criticism that they deserve and that they need, and the fact that they're running away from it as quickly as they can speaks volumes of their integrity
and shunning her for it. I mean, removing her from the line in all episodes. Real quick, let me table it. Yeah, let me get that for a second. Amir says, Steven, where Carrier cheats on the data. His rank Ringland chart, he alters certain parts to make his hypothesis fit in his data rather than the data fit the hypothesis. And you're exactly right. If you look at the rank Ringland, you look at the actual conditions for that, and then you look at his, they don't match. There are some major irregularities that he kind of changed to make it kind of fit. I've seen that myself. But as far as the Autumn thing, yeah, look, I got no issue with Autumn. She doesn't like me. I don't. So somebody, all I know is that somebody she trusts, could be anybody, could be Matt, for all I know, that she no longer really trusts. But she was told by somebody that she trusts that I'm a bad, horrible human being that should never be contacted by anybody. Whatever. Doesn't mean that I can't evaluate what she has said. Doesn't mean I can't evaluate the situations. And I think she's wrong fundamentally on some philosophical stuff. But on this issue, you're right. I think Bearded Heretic's right. I think you're right. I watched some of his stuff and his review. She absolutely had every right to call them out. They're doing the exact same thing. Their hypocrisy. They're going after churches, but they're not willing to share the information themselves and show where the money's going. Be a little more transparent about it. Give as she put it, give these people a stipend or something, because these people have been doing this stuff for free for how long? These are not paid employees by the people that do these shows, to me it's like having lay clergy. So yeah, I think Autumn was spot on her approach to that. And look what they did. Instead of just addressing it fairly and going, this is some fair criticism, let's address it.
So rational.
Yeah, they totally ran away from it and vilified her, and that's what they did to me with my arguments. Oh, Steve has these arguments; he's a bad man. Let's vilify him. And then, worse than that, Jim. Not only do they vilify me, but you notice that the ACA brought in a bunch of new players, all of which I have major issues with, that I think are some of those unethical, shittiest human beings on the planet. They made co-host.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you mention that, Steve, because remember the slack that you received for simply having someone on your channel to talk about a particular topic?
I do.
And they wanted to bring up that person's history? Well, guess what some of those new co-hosts have done in the last 2 days?
What's that?
They've had their own person with the similar type of history on their channel.
But it's much like religion. You don't see the errors, and whenever people are kissing your ass, it feels so good that you don't realize that their mouth's dirty, they didn't brush their teeth.
Yeah, well, and hypocrisy is a very prevalent thing we see in religion and churches. And since the ACA is ran like one, does it really surprise anybody that they don't have the same degree of hypocrisy? It surely doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, if you want some atheist organizations out there that I think are at least doing some good, they're the ones getting vilified. Like, look at the Atheist International Alliance, right? They're at least trying to save lives. Do I have some problems with Michael Sherlock in his philosophy? Yeah. Do I think he's a bad guy? No. Do I have a problem with John John Richards? Is that his last name? In his philosophy? Yeah, I think he's absolutely morbidly inept in philosophy. Is he a bad guy? No. I have no personal issue with either one of them, but look at these other atheist organizations. They are the most dishonest organizations I've ever seen in my freaking life. American Atheist, dishonest. ACA, dishonest. Randolph Richardson, who's the head of the Canadian Atheism organization. What is it? Canadians Alliance or Canadians Atheists, whatever. I mean, holy crap, is that dude dishonest? I mean, so yeah, go ahead.
Randolph tries so hard. It's almost cute. You just gotta laugh at him sometimes.
Yes, he's like the little puppy that just poops everywhere, and you go, stop doing that, and he poops again, and stop doing it. But I look, I only have so much mental charity to give to people. He's just, not only is he fundamentally stupid and ignorant and inept, he's evil. I think he's an evil person. He has said things about me that were untrue. He has promoted falsities about me that were untrue, and he didn't care. He doesn't care whether they're true or not. That, to me, is a shitty human being. Kawasa 5001. Doc Stash is right. That's a great name for him, Doc Stash.
Well, in most of the cases, it's like it's not just the appearance of accepting, these bad things these people done in their past by promoting them to these positions, but it's the reason why they're promoting them to these positions that I have a problem with the most, and it's that they're trophies to put in a trophy case because at one time they meant something, but they are, for the most part, they are just completely inefficient, and there's no justification for putting them in that position other than their Rolodex.
Well, sure. I mean, the Atheist Experience, I'm sure it was a position of impressive power to be on a board member or the president or something like that. Now it's just they're all political hacks. But
sure.
Kawasa finishes.
I mean, look at the CEO of Atheist Republic now. Like, who's that?
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a second. Kawasa 5001, if you want to. I don't want to bring up bad stuff. The double standard is a dangerous thing. We should all constantly check if we're not doing the same. Absolutely, Kawasa. And I think we all should be self-aware of that fact. But as you mentioned, Jim, these organizations like Atheist Republic and even like American Atheist, things that David Silverman used to be a part of, things that Armin Ra is a board member of. You were affiliated with one of the more prevalent organizations. Not one of my favorites. Matter of fact,
I was the CEO.
Can we mute whoever just joined real quick? That's okay, I got you. Okay, I got it. It's funny. You were the CEO for the Atheist Republic. I hated that group. I thought they were bottom barrel feeders, and yet I never had a problem with you. You never made it personal. You didn't give a crap that I didn't like the organization, and I respected you.
I didn't like them, but I saw their potential that they had. That's why I accepted the position.
Yeah, well, you had hoped to change them and kind of move them in a more progressive and a better kind of way to elevate them, because you want an elevated discussion. You got sick and tired of this bottom level
right.
bullshit.
I've done a lot. All these meetup groups, these hundreds of people that are meeting up every weekend in Brazil and Mexico and Nigeria, all around the world, it was because of my momentum I put behind that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I applauded that effort, but they still were one of the worst groups as far as like just meme central. There are.
I don't disagree with you, but whenever half of the board is your family and best friends, then there's
you have no hope.
Have actually the voting majority. It's really hard to do anything.
Yeah, and that's sad. But that's again, same thing we find in organized religion: nepotism, friends, kickbacks, whatever the hell.
It's just anywhere you go. Some people call it the good old boy system. Some people call it, you know, the old boys club or whatever. It's all the same thing. It is the people who affirm your view that can do something for you. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Fuck everybody else.
Yeah, who was the guy from Atheist Republic? What's his name? Come on, the head dude.
Who?
What the Arab guy? What's his name? The ex-Arab Muslim guy.
Armin.
Yeah, Armin.
Armin Navabi.
Yeah, Navabi. You know, I don't personally have a problem with Navabi himself. However, I know he's two-faced. I know he talks out of both sides of his mouth. I've seen it happen in real time. And I can't respect that.
He's a founder. He's the one whose family is the voting majority.
Yeah, well, I've seen him in real time do some question or say some. He'll tell me one thing, but I know he'll told his admins other things, kind of thing.
Yeah. That was a daily thing.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't know why these people think I'm stupid, and they think I have people that are friends of mine that were admins for these groups that they disagreed with him, and yet they're telling me.
It's a heresy, Steve.
Yeah, they're like they were honest about it, and many of them left, but they're like, hey, Steve, this is not what he's saying. Yeah, so.
It's like a Catholic saying that the Pope is parting his hair the wrong way.
And then Bobby blocked me after being so apologetic, wanted to talk and shit like that. I'm like, you lying. Oh, come on.
And that's the thing, is that he will come on and he will ingratiate himself and grovel and make you look like you are just being the most arrogant, stuck-up prick imaginable. Yeah. And then that'll be the last. That'll be the last that he talks to you or associates you with you or invites you on or promotes anything.
Yeah, I was not being. What's the word? Played by him. I knew what was going. I knew what was up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I let him think what he wanted. But
I will give him this. He didn't go and try to ruin anybody, but he was not shy about the fact that he was that he had his own agenda, But as long as he could serve his own agenda, he wasn't one to go and fuck somebody, But he definitely was looking out for himself.
Yeah.
Is looking out for himself.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. And I don't know. I understand being self-serving to a point, but not when it I you know how I am. I don't like people telling person one thing and then telling people something else somewhere else, right. because that presents problems. Because now you have people that have conflicts of interest, because not because anybody has any real loyalty to me, but they have loyalty to the truth. And it's like, wait a minute, they're like, I don't feel comfortable with this or that, or this is not exactly what I signed up for. This is not right. What I think is ethical. People have ethical issues, and that's why you see a lot of these people leaving these types of organizations. Look at the schism that happened with the ACA. How many times people are like, wait a minute here, we don't like the direction you're going with this. Look at the way the ACA was ran on Facebook. People left that Facebook group or even got blocked or banned and labeled a heretic for even dare asking questions.
And that's the problem, is because this loyalty to the truth is a problem, because the truth relies on the loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're loyal to somebody and you believe that they're loyal to you, then whatever they say is truth is truth.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, because you have to parrot whatever they say, or you're considered a dissenter.
Well, you don't have to, but because you have that loyalty, because you haven't been fucked yet,
Mm-hmm. Yet. I love that caveat. Yet. It's like it's almost going to come at some point.
It's all caps yet. It's italicized and underlined.
That's so true, because all these organizations, it is yet. It is like every single one of them has eventually got screwed over. Look how many people have left the ACA. The host have got screwed over. I'm going to tell you right now, I think Eric and V got screwed over hard. I'm not sure what happened with I'm not sure what happened with Objectively Dan.
Eric is such a good guy.
Yes, he is.
He's one of the most loving people that I've ever met. I I wish that I could be his best friend, but because of the way his position was and everything, it couldn't happen. But
Eric legit wears his heart on his sleeve. He's truly an honest guy.
The prerequisites for that position, and that prerequisite is being two-faced.
Yeah, he couldn't do it. He couldn't. He
can't.
No,
he's too sincere. He's too genuine.
He is one of the very few people that I actually communicate with. Pretty. You know, Eric's a friend. I mean, straight up. I would walk. I'd be walking in the morning to the bus stop at like 5 a.m. and the mist, and I'd be talking to Eric kind of stuff. He's just a great guy to talk to, but he is legit. I mean, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's not fronting. And I mean, agree with him or disagree with him, I like people that actually talk about what they actually believe and not afraid to promote it rather than toe the party line. He wasn't willing to do that. I don't think he could lie if it's not in his nature to be deceptive like I think they wanted him to be. So,
well, whenever you are an empathetic person by nature, and you are faced with caring for this multitude of people who are hurt in such serious ways, you can only do so much. You want to do everything for everybody, and you end up just at the expense of yourself, your mental and your physical health. It's well,
look what happened.
It's always detrimental.
I mean, I think he's the happiest I've seen him in years. Right now, he's enjoying it. He has a new show. I did a review of his first episode. I think it went well. And he's very happy with V. And
I didn't see it.
Yeah, go watch the. I think it was the first episode they did, the Skeptical Generation. I did a review of it.
What's the premise? What
was the thing that they were talking about? I don't.
What was the theme?
Somebody has to tell me. I can't remember everything. And as I get older and more history kind of goes in the past, I have to think back and go, is my chronological remembrance correct? Because it's not always, and it's hard. It really is hard to try to remember things that have happened in a certain order. Or that's why I have people around me, because they'll remind me, like, Steve, maybe it was like this, and you're like, now I know. But I remember certain things. Like I said many times, I really do believe this, but I can't prove it or verify it yet, and I'm not certain. But this is how I remember it, and then I'll find something later on that triggers it and go, that's what I was thinking of.
Well, it's like the atheist community of Austin. It used to be this one big blue beach ball inside of this big room, and you could go and you could play with it and everything, and you knew it and it was fine. And then one day somebody shut off the lights, and when the lights came back on, there were 52 big blue balls in there. You didn't know what the hell was going on. That's a good analogy.
By the way, Bitter Heretic, I just see a message for Rents. I have a lot more. I have a lot of mods right now. Look, I tell you what, you help. I'm at 17,000. If every 1,000 that I get, I said I need a new mod, so get me to 18,000 subs, and I'll mod you.
Give me the 2,000.
I have very little growth. I haven't grown. Whatever. What? You have a mod.
Subscribe to me.
You have a wrench. You've had a wrench.
If you're subscribed to Steve and you're not subscribed to me, I can't say that I blame you.
Your link is in the video description. I always shout people out there on the show. You're gonna get some subs, maybe 2 or 3.
Tags, man.
Yeah. It's in the video description. Go sub them now. Cannabis says, as a theist, I appreciate your thoughtful approach. Used to watch Dylan Hunting and appreciate your much more thoughtful and informed approach. And I appreciate that. Look, Dylan Hunting on certain topics just fine. It's just that I think that when Dylan Hunting gets up against something that he's not familiar with, he just shits on himself. And Armin does the same thing, and even worse so, because I got to tell you, I don't know if you watched it, Jim. Did you ever watch my review of Arn and was it 3 or 4? It was 3 other. There's 3 Muslims, I think it was. Jake the Metaphysician.
I did, and I agree with you. They're both hammers, and eventually everything looks like a nail.
Yeah, and these 3 guys know what the hell they're doing. Look, I don't have to agree with them. I think I'm not Muslim, but when they're as they were relating philosophy, I couldn't find issue with what they're saying. They weren't manipulative. They weren't trying to mislead him. They were just using regular understandings of philosophy from people that study philosophy, and they were just eviscerating him. And he didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And instead of just saying that, he kept having contradictions, and what they were saying wasn't that difficult. But
to comprehend, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't want to, and so he just looked horrible.
it's because with Dill Honey and with Armin, not only are they both hammers, who thinks that everything's a nail, it's that they think that everybody's the same nail. They apply, if they hear two people with the same position, they will automatically assume that they are, they will treat them like the same person. If he gets two calls back to back, he could be 5 seconds into the next phone call and he could just be being a total dick to him because he's so hung up on what this other guy said that he can't separate himself and allow him to see people as individuals with individual struggles. He just sees it as nail, smack, next.
Yeah. Yeah, and he doesn't. I see a lot of times he doesn't actually address the argument. I mean, I've literally in real time thought there and go, dude, this is not what he's saying.
Does, but just not always sufficiently, and that's part of the problem of seeing the same person, or treating people the same way as if their views are the same. It's
like all theists are the same, all creationists are the same.
Right. Because if you're not addressing it within the context of their beliefs, are you addressing it?
No, of course not, because you're addressing a straw man at that point most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they do it to me all the time.
An argument against somebody else.
Do you know how many times I'm accused of being a theist because I give a solid argument? They're like, "Oh, that's a theist argument." No, it's not. I'm not arguing God exists. That's a theist argument.
You are. You're a rock theist.
Yeah. Oh, hell's yeah.
Well, it's interesting you point that out because a thought that has often come to my mind in especially watching Dillahunty is when your manner of behavior is in line and frighteningly close to that of Darth Dawkins, you should probably consider changing your tactics.
That's good advice, and that's a lot of it is what it is. And of course, I've been saying this for a very long time. I will always be vilified from it. I get it, but again, look at the people they used to have on the shows, and look who they have now. If you look very closely to not all, but many of the people they have on the ACA shows in the line, almost all of them related to Kyle Curtis in some way.
Right, or they're reactionary enough that they'll feed the trolls, and then they'll have people on there to pull the heartstrings. That's really where the AC operates, is in those two extremes. Is that these people who feel so much love and empathy for all these mistreated people, and then you have this crowd over here that just like wants religious people to just look retarded and just stupid and whatever other fortune.
That's just an entertainment show. That's not to get to the truth or have actual dialogue.
That's what I'm saying. Like they don't have. There's no desire to have any sort of productive discussion. Like they don't want to progress the discussion. They want to keep rehashing it over and over. They don't want to build a house. They just want to drive the nail, pull it out.
I mean, does it take any kind of real understanding of these topics to go, prove your God? You can't prove your God. Prove your sky daddy. You can't prove your sky daddy. It's mundane. And especially because most of the time it's a straw man. Because again, I keep telling people, stop telling people things like, can you prove that? If that's not, excuse me, stop telling people to prove something they never have said they can prove to begin with. That's a straw man. I mean, how do you look at it? I can say anything I want as a claim. Doesn't mean I have to be able to prove it. Just means I have to be able to justify it. Huge difference, right? But anyways, I did give some people some mods there. So we have a question for you from Connor B. Ready for this? So this is did you answer the question about aspiring philosophy? Oh, did you? What'd you answer? I missed. What'd you say? You're gonna debate him again?
Yeah. So I had just came out of really major surgery, and don't think that I did well. I didn't have any of my material. It was just basically all of my preparation and stuff that I had done. It was just all off the top of my head. And he asked if I was going to debate IP again. And to answer his question, yes, I would like to. I had asked him that same day, as a matter of fact, if he. Well, to be fair, he did tell me that we could reschedule, and I was like, no, this is what we agreed to. I'm going to do this, but I would like to, debate you on something else in the future, just because talking to him whenever you're not just watching one of his videos, when he's not talking to you and he's actually talking with you, he's a really good interlocutor. I really enjoy speaking with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always enjoyed Aspire Philosophy. I've never had any issue with him whatsoever. I think he I like his quantum arguments. I think goes way off in left field, but no, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And seeing as how And seeing as how in Text Jim you've already addressed the other question that I was going to end it with, because I was curious to know what that whole thing between you and Bearded Heretic is about Santa.
He just can't get over all these similarities. It's just I think that there are just enough that there's not really an issue in comparing the existence of both. I don't think that they are close enough to compare them as comparative theologies, or
you talking about Jesus
theologies, or whatever you want to.
You talking about Jesus compared to Santa,
or the beliefs around that. Whereas he doesn't believe that, or doesn't. I don't want to misrepresent him, but it seems that he doesn't think that there are enough similarities to compare them at all.
You're talking about Jesus, right?
No, God and Santa.
Okay, God and Santa. Okay. I don't see a lot of similarities. Whose side am I on?
Yeah, but I think he's a great guy. I mean, I don't disagree with much of what he says. I think we just come to, I think we just weigh the evidence.
Well, hang on. I don't know either. I didn't catch whose side I was on what. I
don't see Bayesian models. I believe in Santa and God. Before,
yeah, I don't see a lot of similarities between God and Santa. So am I more on Beard's side or your side?
You're agnostic about it, Steve.
I hate you.
Well, Steve, you do have a couple things that would fill that mode of similarities. Because when you think about it, both God and Santa are supposed to be omniscient. Because how else is...
I'm doing it.
Well, I don't think Santa's supposed to be omniscient. He just knows, all the if somebody's been naughty or nice.
When you're sleeping, he knows.
No, that's not omniscient. That means that he has a certain thing that he knows about.
He knows if you've been bad.
Okay, so
you can only be bad or good.
Okay, or you can only be asleep or not. So he knows what 4 things. He knows.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
that's not omniscient. That's not all knowing.
That's God.
So you worship God.
Yeah.
So you worship Santa now. You're a Santatarian.
No, so when you really look at the mythology, when you really look at the way it's presented, Santa would at best be a demigod. He has some godlike capabilities, but not all.
That. No, I can grant demigod status because yeah, I can grant that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take but somebody saying, well, if it weren't for Santa's above light speed trip to every house around the world in one night, the Earth's gravity would be thrown off, and the Earth would be, whipped into oblivion, and we would all spaghettify, and we wouldn't be able to exist without Santa.
So therefore, Santa must exist.
Right.
Yeah.
But all it takes is that one assertion, is to say that he's metaphysically necessary, and boom, he's a god.
Well, here's the thing, though. I'm kind of an anti-Santanist because I'm not a Christmas tree person.
You would be.
I'm not going to convert. I'm sorry. I'm just not a Christmassy person. Never have been.
You don't want to slide down your chimney?
I'm sure you want to have a lot of people slide down your chimney.
Yeah.
I don't judge. I don't judge.
You two enjoy the rest of your time. I'm off to bed. Yep. I will catch you guys later.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the call. We're going to only be about 15 more minutes anyways. We decided to go for 90 minutes, so we're not. So if anybody else wants to call in, that's fine. We didn't expect people to too many calls anyways. I told them that before we even started. I don't know. This we don't usually have calls on this particular show, but. Yeah, Judgment Call, we get a lot more calls, but we need to promote more to the theists out there that want to call. So if you know some theists,
hey, Otangelo's out there. Maybe he can come on and say his piece.
Otangelo doesn't want to talk to me; he wants to talk at me.
Yeah, I watched Otangelo and Atheist Pastor this morning at like 5 a.m. And Otangelo's a broken record. He just parrots the same crap over and over again. I mean, why bother? What's that?
Did you run out of cats to drown or something?
Yeah, it was. I had to go, but I was just like this. I asked my questions. He didn't know how to answer, of course, because he doesn't understand the concepts. He just parrots what he thinks is the case. He doesn't want to learn anything. I'm sorry, but there are 2 levels of young Earth creationists that I know. There's the bottom barrel feeders that just parrot what the upper echelon says. They're a dime a dozen, and they don't know crap. The upper echelon, those are the ones that I much rather talk to, and those are the ones I do have conversations with. I mean, people know that I talk to Dr. Humphreys. I talk to Dr. Safadi. Those are the people that actually trickle down to the lower echelons, right? So I rather have the conversations with them than the ones that just parrot with the upper echelons saying, why would I need the bottom people? I can go straight to the top nowadays.
Yeah, I got steps to the ivory tower now.
Yeah, you got what?
Steps to the ivory tower.
All right, well, I'm off. You gents have a great time.
You thanks,
Right,
buddy.
man.
No, I still don't catch that. What tower?
Amira Shafra has a question.
No, what did you say before that, though? I didn't hear.
Propositions has a little syllogism. It says, Proposition 1, any being that accepts sacrifices is a god. P2, Santa accepts milk and cookies as sacrifices. C, Santa is a god.
Is it a sacrifice or is it a off?
Yes, Santa is a god, but the argument is against God, and one of the explanations for God that goes above and beyond just a deity is that he has some sort of metaphysical contingency.
See, I don't think it's a sacrifice.
Or that he is metaphysically contingent.
I know you're the Bible expert here, so I'm going to ask you. I don't think that's a sacrifice. That's an offering.
Well, an offering is a sacrifice.
No, all sacrifices are offerings, but not offerings have to be sacrifices. Sacrifices would be killing of something, would it not be? A blood sacrifice? Like burnt sage is an offering, but that's not a sacrifice.
Not necessarily, because you can.
So you get your PhD and you think you know everything.
To sacrifice something is to
give up
lose something.
to give up something, right?
I mean, whereas in Judaism, like, yeah, it does. I mean, I can understand how you can think that it's always life, but it's not.
So the sacrifice is that you're
life.
not eating the cookies; you're giving them to somebody else. So you're giving up your sugar intake for the day, and
right. But yeah, it's the contingency aspect that without God we couldn't exist.
Now, could it be though that those cookies are actually the flesh of Santa? Because that'd be cannibalism, I guess, but whatever.
But maybe check this out. Maybe it is hell yeah. Maybe it is a metaphorical so it's symbolic, right? It's symbolic of your blood and your body that you're giving to Santa.
Oh, you're offering your own.
So, yeah, you're offering yourself. Every Christmas Eve, you give him your body and your blood.
Drink of the milk drink of the milk that is of Steve and the cookies of his flesh. So I'm giving I'm giving the
and
milky
he does
cookies.
it ritualistically. After he slides down the chimney and he distributes the presents and he fills the stockings, then he eats milk and cookies, and he doesn't eat them all. He doesn't drink it all. He's got to leave.
I think he only eats a bite, right?
Back up the chimney.
Yeah.
So he leaves you a little bit of your body and blood to regenerate for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Holy shit,
man, this is deep. What have you done? I'm not converting though. I'm like I said, I'm not a big Christmas person.
Shit, I might.
Well, hey, look, mistletoe has those little berries and stuff on it, and those do kind of look like Christmas ornaments, right? There's
no,
some relationship there.
So what did you say about berries?
If you look at like mistletoe has those little berries on them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like Christmas ornaments. Right. Yeah. To me,
it came from the desire to eat booty on around Christmas or New Year's, and then the term dingleberry came about, and then the berries, they dingle, they have bells, and so mistletoe, dingleberries, eating butthole,
Yeah. You could make that correlation. Smitty says I leave Dr. Pepper and Birdie's Bots every flavored bean for Steve on eve of a random day of the year. Yeah, I prefer. You know what? I've been meaning to tell you. I prefer Diet Dr. Shasta. That's what I drink. Shasta Cola. Diet. What is it? Diet Shasta Cola and Diet Dr. Whatever they call it.
Dietitian, Steve.
Yeah, I drink diet drinks. Okay, I don't like sugar.
Yeah. You don't say diet doctor. It's just dietitian.
Whatever. Look. I people know I've been, I'm trying to get healthy at least. I've dropped down. Yeah. Well, okay. So I met this fitness person last year, and we started getting into dieting, and then the coof hit, and so I think I went back up a little bit, but my scale is way off. For some reason, it has like 3 something pounds off sometimes if you jiggle it. So I think my initial weight in 119 was off. I think it was 116. But even still, when I wanted to start dieting, even if I was at 116, I just weighed myself the other day. I'm down to 103. So that's a good weight loss. I'm sorry, 203. So I went from 216 to 103. I'd be dead. 203. But I'm trying to get under.
Like 230, you know?
Yeah, that's way too, yeah, dude. My highest was 216, something like that. And so I'm the fact I'm down to 203 now, and if I can get under 200, I would love to be about 195, somewhere around there, but we'll see. But I've been eating healthy stuff, and
I'm about 10 pounds under my heaviest. But my heaviest, I was like 25 years old, and I had like 7% body fat.
Jesus Christ, man, I'd be dead at 7%.
235 pounds.
I probably estimate about 18% body fat right now, 18 to 20. I mean, I got a little bigger BMI than I need, probably 29 point something. But again, I'm losing. I'm not. I'm tall. Yeah. I mean, I'm well. I guess relatively speaking.
I've always worked, worked out and worked, with the animals and stuff.
Well,
like that.
How tall are you? Because I'm almost 5'6". I'm 5'11" something. What are you?
Basically, I don't work out anymore, especially like with my heart attack and surgeries and stuff like that. I just do calisthenics. So it's kind of, I have the they call the farm boy physique. Where I eat meat and potatoes, and I
Well, yeah, but how tall are you?
5'11".
5'11". Yeah. I remember you were about eye to eye with me. So yeah, I mean, I mean, if it's all muscle, that's great. Which I mean, I do work out a little bit.
It mostly is, yeah.
But in the last couple of weeks, I've lost more than I have in probably the last couple of months.
My weight is like 31, 32 sometimes. Yeah,
I've been dropping about 2 pounds a week, which is a little bit was more than usual. I usually do about a pound or a pound and a half. But yeah, I've really restricted my caloric intake. Salads.
Is it carbs or that you're watching?
Well, actually, what's funny was before I was eating a lot more meats and restricting carbs. Now it seems to be the opposite. I've seemed to be eating more carbs now, and it seems to be working for me to drop me more. I don't know why, because carbs
are
usually.
Doing more exercise?
What's that?
Are you doing more exercise? Because usually the
I only do isometrics.
Carbohydrate intake will make you have more energy.
Yeah, I only do isometrics. I don't do aerobics.
Only isometrics. What is that? What is that like?
I have bands like these.
Like Billy Blaine stuff. Typo.
Dude, isometric exercises. Resistance band training.
I'm just being a dick. I'm just being a dick.
Tybo. How the fuck do you remember what Tybo is? You ain't even old enough to remember Tybo.
Because in PE class, we did that whenever our PE instructor died. We didn't have a PE instructor, and so for like the rest of the half of the year, they just brought in these Billy Blaine and Tybo exercise videos.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, man, Tai Chi on and shit,
Oh, that's hilarious. No, but like I said, I've been I have like pastas lately more than anything else, which is going to be pure carbs almost. But I've eaten a lot more salad. But still, I eat chicken for my protein intake. But I mean, I've really been restricting myself to about 1,000 calories a day for a couple weeks. 1,200 calories, which is quite low, and I probably need to get off of for like a week. But it really did kick me down in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Kawasa 5001. So giving cookies and milk to Santa is transubstantiation of yourself into cookies and to gifts, like the communion. Exactly. See?
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Unless the cookies are like not transubstantiated, but you're actually like carving them out of your skin. Like, can you imagine like there's like this extremist view of these Santaists, and they actually like get a syringe, and they fill a cup with blood, and then they carve circles out of their skin, and they just have like these scars,
like scarification.
Yeah, and you can know them by their spots.
By the way, did you never accepted transubstantiation? I assume, right?
No, I wasn't a Catholic.
But
no,
what about Pentecostal stuff? You accepted speaking in
tongues?
Yeah,
I was even a Unitarian. I didn't think that the Trinitarian view was tenable.
Yeah, I never accepted the Trinitarian view. I never accepted speaking in tongues. I never accepted the transubstantiation. Now, as Mormons, we did have the bread and the water, but they don't believe that it actually becomes something else.
It's more symbolic.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
But yeah, certain things, even back then, I was like, no.
I mean, we did it too. Like, it was symbolic, but it was like, it wasn't wine. It was always grape juice, and it was usually oyster crackers.
Well, I mean, get fed, right?
I mean, it's like a shitty like a quarter of a shot. You know, it's like the little cups that you could barely get your finger in, and then it crack. Oh shit! You know what I'm talking about.
Did you?
Or you seen the ones with the peel tops? Like,
yeah.
They shit you not, man. They have ones like this little.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and it's got like this little compartment for the bread.
For like oyster crackers are put in like soup or something.
It's like a little Nutella and breadsticks thing you got going on.
Nutella and breadsticks for communion.
Yeah.
Did you recently see Copeland's? There was a video on Copeland where he was talking to God. You know, God's talking through him.
Oh yes.
And of course he's stumbling his words, and then now he's trying to covering up by saying, "Yeah, I'll get to that." It's just,
you remember Dunkaroos?
Who?
Dunkaroos. It was like these kangaroo animal crackers, and he dunked them in this. It was like cake icing with sprinkles in it.
Nope.
No.
I had a deprived childhood, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long
people still make fun of me because I grew up thinking white bread with tomatoes tomato sauce and cheese as pizza.
Was like my ideal like communion. Like I could do Dunkaroos.
Yeah. Cannabis asked, why aren't you an atheist? Reasons keep you agnostic versus theist versus atheist. I've already answered that a million times. I mean, it's just basically at this point, look, there's only a couple different solutions.
That's why.
Well, there's only a couple different possibilities for existence. And as far as necessary being, a necessary being is quite possible. A necessary being with agency and intentionality is quite possible. But I think that if a necessary being with agency and intentionality exists, it's not like any other. It's not like any being anybody's described. I don't think there's a single person that's ever lived that has described God in a coherent way. That if God exists, it exists in a way that they think. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a reason for existence that involves some kind of a being. So I'm kind of agnostic on that question. Because here's the thing though. Given there's really only three possibilities, which is called infinite regression, brute fact, or necessary being, which may or not have agency, right? Necessary being doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be some kind of intentionality to it. But those are the three only possibilities I can think of. None of them are really that great of answers. None of them. And so that's what sucks. It's like I tend to brute fact, but who the hell knows? It could be an infinite regress, could be brute fact, or it could be a necessary being. I really have no evidence either way to really kind of tell me which one to really think is the case, except I just tend to brute fact because of the fact that it is so ambiguous.
Well, that's the contemporary concept of religion, whether it's polytheistic or monotheistic or anything in between, is that this presumption that of everything being contingent upon it, of it being necessary, of it being, it's usually because of it being a creator God. Like even in the polytheistic traditions, at least one God was the creator God, right?
Right.
At least one God made the other gods. There's always that, And
if there is such a thing as God, I would take it as a necessary being, creator God. I believe that gods like Zeus and Mars, they don't exist.
But not necessarily. What if he's the only God? What if he's one of 100 gods and he's the least one? He's the shittiest one, and he got kicked out of wherever they are.
Then I would be considered to be wrong. That's all.
But to us, he would still be like a deity. He'll still transcend us in every way. Yeah.
Well, but I just have a false belief then. Yeah.
Maybe he would never tell us, and he would just make us worship him, or he'd burn us forever. Maybe if he was a real dickhead, he would do that.
Maybe he's Loki.
Maybe God is just a really, really crappy God.
No, I mean, if the God is probably more of a sentient alien kind of thing. I don't know, because nothing makes sense. I mean, like I said, if something made perfect sense, then it would have been answered ages ago. But the problem is none of these options really work very well. The same thing when it comes to like free will. When you got libertarianism and you have incompatibilism versus compatibilism, where you have soft or hard, all three of them suck. There's really no great answer.
Right.
So,
well, if you are an all-loving God and you're going to create something with so much free will, and you're going to give them that free will, as well as not giving them sufficient evidence for your existence, then you're going to punish them if they don't exist in you.
Yeah, I don't believe that kind of God.
Yeah, that's
it makes no sense for me for God to say, look, I'm sending you for eternal damnation merely because you didn't believe I existed. That's petty.
It could be a bad God.
That'd be a bad
shitty
God. That'd be a bad God.
But the claim that this all-loving, omniscient, omnipotent God who wants you, who wants to have a relationship with you, and who only wants the best for you is just not at all compatible with any contemporary portrayal.
But isn't that like the divine hiddenness argument right there?
What's that?
Isn't that the divine? I mean, you're basically saying the divine hiddenness argument, right? I mean, or the argument from silence. It's
not just that, the argument from evil too.
Yeah. By the way, Maki says Pyrrhonism is instructive here. Yeah, Pyrrhonism to me is just hands up, going, "Hey, we can't know anything." I mean, Pyrrhonism is the ultimate, in skepticism. That doesn't work for me either. If anything, a Pyrrhonian skeptic that says that we can't know anything. The Pyrrhonian skeptic says we don't even know if we can know anything or not. The academic skeptic says we can't know anything.
What about the nihilist, though? Not only do we not know anything or we can't know anything, but
who cares? Nothing exists. I mean, what's the point? Well, there's different forms of nihilism, too, obviously. But, I mean, nihilism has some merit to it in some degrees.
If you're going to feed the Christians, they're going to take that and run with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, nihilism has some merit to it. It just depends. I mean, I don't believe in things like epistemic nihilism, though. People think that we don't have any beliefs. That's stupid.
Whatever you think about God's kingdom, he selects you. It's these people. He makes you go and do these things that you might not want to do or you don't think are good, but you have to do them anyway. And you have to be loyal to him. And he's always the ruler. And he's going to punish you, do horrible things to you, and he's going to treat entire groups of people badly for something that smaller groups of people had done. Would you say that he's more of a democracy kind of God, or more of like a totalitarian?
No, that's an authoritarian, totalitarian. I mean, obviously that type of God, I don't think makes much sense to be a God.
Right.
Now, I think. Hang on, but I think a lot of that is people's interpretation. I think a lot of the Bible is man's interpretation. Right. Gone amok. But if there was some kind of being that gives information every so often for whatever reason, man's going to distort it. Man's going to get it wrong. But I think they were just interpreting things in their own way. And I don't think that it makes sense for that type of being that you just described or that's described in the Bible to exist in any real concrete sense. Does that make sense?
Well, and in terms of, again, being an all-powerful and all-loving deity, the fact that he gives this information every couple of thousand years, is just more
one day to him.
Believe that he's a shitty God.
Maybe he's just sleeping. Hey, look, one day to God is 1,000 years. So he's sleeping. The next day he wakes up, gives a little revelation.
Then is he? Why would he need to sleep? Apparently God doesn't need or want for anything.
Everybody needs to chill, baby. Everybody needs.
And if
chill.
he doesn't need or want for anything, we still have to worship him.
Yeah, well, he's obviously he doesn't need or want divine simplicity.
It's like he wakes up, and people lined up to suck his dick, and he's just like, "This is for you, not me."
This is for you. I am so good to you. Yeah, that's not narcissistic at all.
I also worship the pantheon of weed gods. I am a follower of Indicus.
I don't even know what the hell that is.
It's that god that'll shut you down for the night.
Did you say indica?
Thank you. Make you eat your refrigerator.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Weed. I thought you said we like the game or something. No, I don't partake. It doesn't work for me. So whatever. I don't know. I tried it.
You're just not partaking enough. You got to partake more.
It does. It's just not a thing, man. I don't know. Maybe people keep saying try this, try that. I'm like, I don't even know where the hell you can get it around here. I live in a very liberal area too, and I have no idea.
Amir Shafra.
I think Colorado.
I asked a question because I might have missed one. But Amir Shafra said, question for Jim. What are your thoughts on cannabis being used in Israelite worship and its implications for Christians who condemn smoking weed? Right there, you said it. Early Israelite religion isn't Christianity, and Christianity is an early Israelite religion. While there's been cannabis found on sacrificial altars in early Israelite high places, that doesn't mean that it was the God of the Bible. It could have even been Yahweh not been the Yahweh of the Bible. It could have been Baal, and it could have been the God of the Bible. It's the nature of these ancient Near Eastern religions is that it was so long ago in a time that we don't really know, with practices that we're not really familiar with, that really the only thing that we can go off of is the similarities to modern religions in that area, in that context, that cultural context.
Was Baal part of the Canaanite? Was Baal and Yahweh both Canaanite gods at one time, or in that pantheon at least, or related to?
Yeah, I mean, and they've been each other. Yahweh is not the same thing as El, or El is the same thing as Baal, or El is the same thing as Yahweh. It's this nature of these gods of the pantheon, is that you're not always on top, and when it came to the gods of the pantheon, you also had your your individual gods. You had your city gods. You had your house gods, the family gods. So depending on how close you were with those cultural centers that required that sort of oblation and things like that to be done, depending on how connected you were to that community, kind of dictated how you felt about the pantheon. So to some people, El isn't shit, Yahweh isn't shit.
They were just gods in the pantheon. They weren't.
Marduk isn't shit, right? It's just all depends on where you fit, culturally in that context.
I always thought that, like, back then they thought that, like, the names were power. And so, like, the actual name of God is hidden such that nobody actually even knows it, probably wouldn't even pronounce it. But the words, the utterances of these types of words had power to them. This is why they believed in occultism, where if you had certain words chanted in a certain way and spoken in a certain way and sigils used in a certain way, they did certain things. Now, obviously, I think that that's nonsense. I don't think that saying certain things doesn't somehow just make things happen. I don't. I mean, well, okay, except for commissives, or not commissives.
It's not even saying things. It's placing things. That's how we know that whenever we look for signs of early religion, like the Paleolithic era, or even like Neolithic, we look for burials are a good sign for the existence of religion, because it was the way that they would lay somebody. They would lay them ritualistically in facing this direction, in this position, and with these objects, to show that they had some sort of a belief, in an afterlife, or in a veneration of a life spent.
Yeah. But you know what? I was thinking about, there actually is a way to say something and it just change reality. You know that? Seriously, they're called declaratives.
Yeah, it's positive reinforcement.
No. No, it's called in speech act theory.
I am pretty.
You just keep thinking that. No, in speech act theory, a declarative is something where, for example, when a priest says, "I now pronounce you man and wife," that now you're married. Now it changes something that is a factual nature. So the proposition, such and such married, that becomes, from false to true after the declarative, because they have the legal standing to do so. So certain words can change reality, but can it make things happen physically? Other than like moving air around, but if I chant something to create a spell, no. Matter of fact, a lot of them, new people are getting into what's called chaos magic. Ever heard of that?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's just nonsense.
It's like your house. If you go to your house and you renew the rent, and you renew the lease or whatever, and you change something about the lease, does that make the house any different? Is the house no longer a house? Are you no longer you? It's like, no, it's just a contract, that might affect two different people, but it doesn't affect their realities. You know what I mean?
Yep, I agree. So Kimaki wants to know about Moloch.
Well, there can be a lot said about Moloch, just depending on your position of it. There are so many different textual mentions of Moloch, and the way that is portrayed is often hard to tell that if they're talking about Moloch or Moloch, or if they're talking about a city, or if they're talking about a ritual involving fire or something like that. But the way that the Bible portrays it is that Moloch is this god that these ancient Israelite religions would sacrifice their children to. You'll hear Christians like cite, I want to say it's Polybius, where he's writing about, or maybe it's Plutarch. No, it's Polybius. He was talking about these mothers who will slit their child's throat and place them on the hands of this bronze idol with the fire going on inside of it. So it's basically roasts the baby alive in its arms. And it's Plutarch that says, no, it's Polybius. Shit, I don't know. It's one of those two who talk about them having to play the instruments louder so they could drown out the sounds of the screaming infants. But it's, of course, largely a polemic against anybody non-Israelite.
So those events didn't actually happen.
Group them all in together, like the Canaanites.
Yeah, but was it a way? Was it just to kind of make people upset? The people like horrified by it, or those events didn't actually happen?
Well, so there's no good evidence to suggest that that this was a common thing that took place in Jerusalem. That was in other words, we have evidence of cremations that are done, not just children, of older people too. A lot of a lot of very, very young babies, newborn babies that were stillborn. But many of these cremations are also in jars. They're in earthenware. They were venerated, so it's possible that that some of these places were burial grounds for these ashes. Could they have been sacrifices? Yeah, I mean, human sacrifice is attested to, and I'm sure that it was done. I mean, in fact, you can see it
happens now. People have killed their kids in the name of God.
Right. Well, if you look in the Old Testament, the order to kill his son you give Jeroboam and killing his daughter, and you have Jesus, God killing Jesus. Human sacrifice, even though it was something that was looked down upon, to give up your firstborn or to give up those who are responsible for perpetuating your culture and your beliefs in these smaller communities. Children were everything. your children were the future. So for you to give
there was value there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, the whole thing with the general story, when they was told, he prayed to God that if you win the battle, he'd go back and kill the first thing he sees, which makes no sense to begin with. I never knew that was in the Bible until it was 6 years ago or something like that. I've never heard that story, and it's weird. It's weird because I've been to Bible study. I've read all of the New Testament. Can't say I've read all the Old, but I mean I kind of know what's in there for the most part. I can't quote scripture, but I have a general understanding of some of the things in there. But that was one story that I just have never heard before in my life, and I was like, "What the hell? Really?" So there's a lot of stuff in the Bible people probably don't know what's in there, even Christians.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff that appears to be historical, but book. it's propaganda, or it's people that are so far removed from the history that, and they're relying on people who are hundreds of years removed from the history, like Daniel, for instance, which is why he gets much of his early information wrong about the siege of Jerusalem and the fall of Jerusalem and the kingship of Nebuchadnezzar and who was the king of Babylon when it fell and who did it fall to. He gets all that stuff wrong, even though he was supposed to be contemporary to it. But when you think of it from the view that he was a 2nd century author who was writing some texts that he knew these historical references to, people like Belshazzar, people like Nabonidus. Not Nabonidus. He didn't mention Nabonidus too. Nebuchadnezzar. Then it makes sense that he would have an idea, but the people that he's relying on for that are 200, 300
but
years.
But you don't think he deliberately tried to?
Original context.
Do you think he deliberately got things wrong?
And they're Greek, so they're they're either biased. Well, they're biased one way or another. But these early historians, it's not the same thing that we think of in our modern brain when we think historian. They are not there to write a textbook, for eighth graders. They are there to write a history that is favorable to their
own culture
purpose, right? Whether their purpose is to support a strong history, or if it's to tear down, or if it's to do a combination of both.
So you think they willfully have
an alliance or whatever? Yeah.
You think they willfully have kind of
soften tensions,
change things for their own purposes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's probably right. But again, I'm not a Bible person. But just from my understanding, I
mean, in those times, politics and religion were one and the same. I mean,
yep. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, it makes absolute sense that they would. But of course, they probably were not looking at it from any kind of real ethical standpoint. They're looking at a more, I hate to say it, Machiavellian type approach, or the ends justify the means, by saying, hey, I'm gonna, it's okay. I'm just gonna throw this in there a little bit to change it, because we want to be favorable in this light, and these are the bad guys over here. We want to make them look bad and things of that nature.
Right.
Are you okay? You tapping on something?
Yeah, I'm reading a comment. Talking about Moloch, the horrid king, and then Moloch was a fire sacrifice, and it was a fire sacrifice, not a sacrifice to Moloch. I thought I made that distinction. If I wasn't clear about that,
yeah, no, I think you did. So, anyways, I think we're gonna wrap it up, Jim. This was awesome, dude. It's always a pleasure to see you. We're gonna hang out more. Anytime you want to do these, man, don't wait for me to reach out to you. If you're like, hey, let's do a show on something, I don't care if it's on my channel, your channel, whatever.
I'm just gonna come on your shit.
What?
No, I'm not just gonna just go and be like, hey, let's go on your channel, Steve.
Why not?
I don't know. It's not. I don't know. It's inconsiderate. I guess.
Fuck no, dude. You get a pass. You get free. If you got a topic you want to discuss, I'll make it happen. As long as you pick the topic, I can't. I have a lot of things. People don't realize how much I actually do. I'm
happy to do these random call-ins, but I just don't. I'm not an interesting person. People.
I beg to differ.
But when I get more esteem, maybe when more people know me, then maybe I'll gain some traction. But I think people are just like, I'm just happy, watching him get stoned and debate people. I don't really want to call in and talk to him.
we still need some rum and coke nights.
Yeah. Well, I don't drink.
Well, I don't really that much either, to be honest with you. So that's fine too. But no, I disagree. I think that when we start getting some or information out there to the theists to call in and stuff like that, I think that your experience is going to be instrumental. But I don't have a lot of theists that call the show. I have a lot of atheists more than anything that watch, which is kind of funny because most of the atheist community despises me, except for the ones that actually want to learn philosophy and about atheism and want to take a more honest approach. They happen to really like what I do. So
I'm happy to talk to those people, but I don't want to talk to the counterparts of Matt Dillahun to where they just get on there like, what's your moral basis for your foundational?
Without God, you can't have any moral foundation for your presuppositions of the Big Bang. That yeah, I don't deal with those. I mean, they can call in, but I don't see.
What's your Big Bang?
I don't give them much. I mean, look, I'm not. Pratts are a dime a dozen. Anybody can call in and run a Pratt. I like to hear what people actually think and why they think it. That's not a Pratt because it's individualized to them, right? So,
yeah. I mean, to me, if you're a philosopher and it interests you, then that's great. And I like philosophy, but it just doesn't interest me enough to talk about it that much. But if people think I'm fucking weird because I talk about the Bible every day. I write about the Bible.
Well, that's fine. Let them call in about the Bible stuff, and as soon as we get more, popularity on that aspect, that's fine. We do have Judgment Call on Monday.
There's not the popularity for me to do it topic based, you know what I mean?
Well, like I said, I mean. Maybe I'm just asking you to come, message me and say I want to hang out. That's kind of where I'm going with that. That's all. I want to be liked.
Okay, I want to hang out.
Yeah, I want to be wanted and needed and loved. Love me, damn it, love me, Jim. Like I said, anytime you, I don't know what the hell I do on your channel because you do the Bible stuff, but one of these days.
What would you do on this one?
Well, this wasn't really about the Bible. This is about Christianity. And the ACA, and just to let people know you got your damn PhD, brother.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man.
Uh,
I was really worried that I was going to have to, at minimum, do revisions and not be able to graduate until the fall. But
I've had 145 edits to my paper.
Yeah, well, because you know, I think you know the first one was rejected, and I had some 200 and something revisions.
Yeah, people
people
don't realize how many revisions. Now I knew a lot of revisions were going to happen because, like I said, I made a lot of little errors, and you know,
I had it resubmitted in less than 2 months.
I haven't submitted it for mine yet. So, but I mean, I have a lot of people have read it, but I still got little comments to do, and then I got to format.
People to read it, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you actually read the entire argument? I don't remember.
Yeah.
I sent you my actual paper.
Yeah, you see, there's a Google Drive.
Yeah. Okay. Did you like it?
Yeah, and I think I responded to it. It was whenever you did one of your first responses to Matt. It was around that time. You kind of like briefly mentioned it, and then but you're so hung up on Matt, like it was like a distant thought.
Well, because you know, it's the thing, I can't give it to Matt because it's not published yet, and Malik had told me don't make it public.
But I mean, he doesn't need it. What I'm saying is like you need to get it before a board.
That's why I want to get published first. Now I've given a very simplified version of it on my blog. That's a very simplified version. That's just the argument that doesn't have all the.
Those are blogs and articles and tweets, but get that shit published, bro.
He already sent it to a logistician friend of his, but he hasn't heard back from him yet. Malik liked the argument. Sarfati, who's a creationist, I know, but he liked the argument.
What's the body that you submitted it to? What is it called?
Oh, I haven't submitted it yet. I gave it to Dr. Malik, who has been published. He knows how to get things published. He has submitted it to a friend of his that is a PhD in logic and philosophy to review it, to say if it at least is, a cogent, valid, argument kind of thing.
When you get it published, you have to get it peer reviewed.
Yeah, well, I wanted to make sure that everything's right on it before I submit it to have it published. But he's like, dude, you don't have to have a PhD to publish something. You just have to have it because it's anonymous anyways. They don't know who submitted it. But
and I probably should have had more readers, more outside review, other than just the committee. But man, I was so self-conscious about it, and first of all, they're very much a Christian institution. They want to promote Christianity. So for me to be promoting this view that
really
that necessitates Daniel was not a prophet, it was not received well. So when I tell you I did work, man, I did work.
Well, yeah, but you have to defend your thesis, and obviously you did. So
yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. Like you got people who are coming in here and they're talking about Paul's vision on the road to Damascus. Was historical because of this and this and these two passages, and they just link them together, and it's just an awful apologist argument. And they're like, "Oh, would you like to graduate tomorrow?"
Yeah, I couldn't imagine defending a thesis, but the closest I can come up with was my final review board. At the end of the nuke pipeline, you have to have an oral review board with an actual nuclear engineer. I mean, a true, nuclear engineer with a degree in nuclear engineering. It was a master chief. I think there was a chief and the first class petty officer, which was the division head or whatever the hell he was. But anyways, they could ask you anything you want from the entire pipeline. And of course, the first question they asked me was try the entire electrical distribution system with all the circuit, all the breakers and what they go to. I was a machinist, mate. I'm like, what the hell? I had to learn about it, but I was like, it's like, damn, what are you asking me about the SMTGs and those motor generators and turbo generators? And I'm like, damn, this. And then I got to ask, like, draw the, the nuclear primary system, the secondary system, derive, I think it was a startup rate equation. I mean, this was a 4-hour exam. Brutal. And I know I had lookups, and what they did. This was in Windsor Locks, Connecticut.
Okay.
And it was a nuclear power training unit, and they'll give you lookups. They'll say, okay, you got these wrong. Look them up, come back, and then you pass. And when I made really one major blunder, and it doesn't sound like a big blunder to you, but I actually on one of my diagrams from I
went through nuke school.
You went to nuke school?
Yeah. Well,
you didn't go. Yeah, but you didn't go to prototype, did you?
No.
Okay. At the very end, you have that oral review board on prototype. You passed the nuke school final exam?
I only did it because it was necessary for a fallback. I wasn't able to go and try out for SWIC until I did a primary A school. So that way, in case I didn't finish my SWIC training, I would have something to immediately fall back on.
Okay, so you didn't go to the dark side. You didn't go to the you just had the okay. So
I didn't even deploy in that aspect.
Gotcha. So what I did was I had the entire system, and I drew a pump backwards. So the volute, the intake and the outtake doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you have a pump backwards, that's a very bad thing in a reactor. I got a lot of shit for that. It's a very simple symbol too. I have no idea how I screwed that up. It's one of those things like you look down and go, God, it seems so trivially stupid.
Arguably more talent to do it backwards,
right? I don't even know how I freaking did it, but I remember very specifically that was one critical. Of course, I knew I screwed up. It wasn't like I was stupid. I was just, but it's those things that you remember. So, but did you ever? So, did you go to Did you have A school for anything of that?
So,
you had to take the physics like in A school in math.
Pardon me. So I had to because my fault. Damn it. So if I had known this whenever I signed my my contract and everything, got with my recruiter, went through MEPS and all that, I would never have done this because there was way too much training involved.
Oh, I would have never done it again. Yeah, no, never again.
If I known how long it was, I would have made because ideally I wanted my backup school to just be done, so that way I could just go ahead and go and start my SWIC training. But so you had to go through new school. Then you had to go through. It was either machinist mate or torpedo man, but they both went to the same school in Groton, Connecticut. So I went nuke torpedo man TM, but really it was nuke machinist mate weapons, and then you had machinist mate A gang. They were both called machinist mates.
What was your system for? Was your Mark 48 torpedoes or?
Ad caps, Mark 48s, Tomahawks. Yep. Yeah.
We didn't have Tomahawks. We had harpoon missiles, SM1s, SM2s.
We had ad caps. We held a Seawolf class.
Nice. Our armaments. We had a 5 1/4 inch. We had two phalanx. The baddest ass things are those phalanx.
We had two bells.
We had two. We had a phalanx and port and starboard side on front.
Okay.
And
we had four.
We didn't have any. We didn't have any aft that I remember. No, it was just the front ones. But it doesn't matter. One of those Sea Whiz. Those things are devastating.
We as SWIC, it was ideal for us to go through sub training because I did get to avoid 2 months of training because sometimes we get transported on subs, and we would deploy through the torpedo tubes. 21 inches in diameter and 21 feet long. We get 6 guys in there, 150 feet below surface. They'd close the inner hatch, pressure up, open out the outer hatch, and we'd swim out and conduct our mission or whatever it was that we were doing, and we would go back in the tube. They'd shut the outer hatch, depressurize, drain the water, open the inner hatch, and we'd hop in.
Not a freaking chance, dude. Not a chance. I look. 6 years in the Navy.
I realized it because in sub school, they teach you how to clean it, right? You climb up in there and you clean it and shit. And for those who don't know, you think it's just a tube, but there's so many electronics and little holes and little wires and plugs and shit, and you're in this tube where you can't look behind you. It's just
I would be claustrophobic.
In front of you.
I would never be able to survive.
Then imagine having a guy get right up between your legs as far as he can, get your nuts all the way up.
I called that last Saturday.
And then have 4 more people do that, and then water.
No, that's like last Saturday for me. I've gone full gay. I don't know if you've known. I might as well. I mean, I've opened up new opportunities to me.
I'm at least 20%.
Yeah, see, you're just 80% to go. Everybody in the Navy's a little bit.
I've never sucked a dick, but I can't say that
you probably would be good at it. I thought the same thing. Look, I figure if I ever do, I will be masterful at it. I will be
dude, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm gonna give it my all. I mean, I'm definitely gonna go all out. It's all or nothing.
Man, I get that. What do they call it? I got that neck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I got to tell you, in my 6 years in the Navy, I don't ever remember touching water. I just, I mean, I get sea spray, but I mean, no, I did, I would not, dude, no, okay, no, hang on, there was one time. The only time I touched water was off the coast of Guam. We went swimming, and that was awesome. That was awesome. And I think, and maybe on PP Island off of, I think it was called Thailand. I think we went swimming as well. But other than that, I don't. Right. Yeah. But even then, you're like, you're not like deep ocean, right? I mean, you're in shallow water. So I mean, I'm not gonna go deep swimming in deep water. Hell no.
In subs, yeah. But like I said, I never was actually attached to a sub. I've deployed with a sub on a sub, but we were cargo essentially. Got to go broke through the polar ice caps one time. I have a certificate for that. That's
a blue nose.
What's that?
Is that blue nose they call it?
Yeah, and they go up there and go polar bear hunting. Look for a black spot. It's either its nose or its asshole.
Yeah, I don't. And, not me, man. No, I was a shellback, but that was it.
Hunting. But it's just one of those things where you break through. Everybody gets out. They take pictures, knock the ice off the sail, and go back in.
Yay!
But I did that a few times. But so as SWIC, I was a fast boat operator. So I operated mainly rigid hull inflatables, the rib boats, which were river boats, fast boats. So I touched rivers a lot, but I didn't touch a whole lot of salt water. Usually salt water was just
I prefer rivers because I like fishing.
Like an infill, exfill thing usually with like a rib, like a beach rescue or something.
I love trout fishing. It's one of my favorite things to do. But anyways, we definitely got to wrap it up. We're at 2 hours, and Rose has blown her mind, and I don't want Rose to blow her mind too much. So
I want salmon.
Salmon is salmon fish is the best.
And get some coho.
Yeah, salmon is the best. But if you can't, I'll let people know if you can't find salmon, find a lake with brook trout. Brookies, they're called.
Yes, absolutely.
They're cousins to salmon.
Or rainbow trout.
Well, yeah, rainbow is everywhere, ubiquitous, and I love rainbow trout. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But if you can find brook trout, it's even better. But I've got cutthroat, splake, brown, rainbow. Trout fishing is the best. Now I don't fly fish. Never got into fly fishing, but yeah. Oh my! I want to go fishing.
If I'm doing an ocean, I like doing reds.
Dude, come down here. We'll go off the coast of Oceanside.
And yellowfin tuna, but I'm talking about yellowfin, whitefin.
I would love to catch tuna, but I don't have the gear for it. But dude, Oceanside.
Yeah, it's expensive. If you don't have your own boat, it's expensive.
Well, yeah, some of that stuff is like $1,000.
It's like you charter that shit.
Like a fish. I mean, albacore tuna is very expensive. But
it's like no, I'll just wait for somebody to bring one that they caught. Right? I don't need to catch it.
Well, I used to go off of a couple times. Oceanside has these full day and 3-day charter boats, and Oceanside, California, and they give you everything you need. They have all the I think they're grunions or something, and you would catch everything from tiger sharks, little tiger sharks, which you throw back, barracuda, hell of a lot of barracuda. Don't eat that. Halibut, if it's over 24 inches.
Don't eat that. Don't eat any shark.
No, I don't eat shark. I always threw them back. But I did keep the sea bass.
Sea bass is good.
Sea bass was bomb, dude.
Very great. Like
and I did catch I did try to eat. I caught and kept the barracuda. Not good eats.
Dirty.
Dirty fish. Yeah, not good.
It's like you ever eaten a gar?
Yeah, no, I don't eat gar. I don't eat a carp.
Same thing, man. It tastes like it's like catfish that you can't get clean.
Yeah, no, I've tried. I've ate that shit. That's why I'll never. There's certain fish I'll never eat because I just know that they're crap.
I like trout. I like
panfish. I eat sunfish. Panfish.
I like sunfish, bluegill, all those canned fish. But I really like bass.
Here's the thing. You're supposed to. You don't have to, but you're supposed to throw a lot of the bass back. But smallmouth bass, they're a dime a dozen. They're good. They're good eats. They don't all meat. But I actually like cooking largemouth bass. I don't catch and release. You're not required in some areas. And then
all I have, I have a stock pond. I've got.
So you eat largemouth bass too, then?
Oh yeah, at least once a week at least.
It's good. People are like hit or miss on it, but I like it.
I have bluegill. I've got perch.
Perch is amazing. Yeah, catfish is a little hard for me to catch. I've caught them, but I usually use these with this. I get chicken gizzards and let them sit in the sun for a while. So
I don't even throw them back.
yeah.
Just because they eat the baby bass, and they'll eat of course the bluegill and the eggs, and like they're bottom dwellers.
Oh
and,
yeah, they're bottom fish. Yeah.
Unless you have like a really clean pond, or a hole where they're at.
Usually reservoirs. I only eat stuff out of reservoirs.
Right. And once you get them, that's it. Like then you gotta wait for another one.
Yeah. I when I fish, I don't fish in dirty waters. I only fish. I mean, I do clean stuff.
I fish my pond, but it's not dirty. It's a natural spring pond, just built up. It's like 18 feet deep. It's pretty deep. I mean, I catch 8-pound bass in it all the time.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm looking about like 2-pound bass, and I'm excited. So.
Oh no, man! I thought those are babies.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I mean, I'm not a great fisherman. I just happen to enjoy it. But anyways,
no, I mean, like the last one I caught, man, his mouth was like this.
Yeah, I don't get to see that large. No, I don't have the tackle for it. So.
They're huge. Well, I mean, like I say, it's a stock pond, and every year, you get 1,000 fingerlings of each. Just to keep them built up, and I don't keep everything that I catch. Heck, the other day, it rained. So Sunday, Sunday I caught probably 20 fish. Didn't keep a single one of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people do it for sport. I just happen to like eating it, but I'm so worried about parasites that when I cook my fish, I cook the crap out of them.
It's really easy to test for fish. It's a lot harder for something like rabbit or something like that, because the fish, it affects their organs first.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know how to flay a fish, and I throw all the organs and stuff away.
Just look at their organs. If they're spotty,
Yeah, no, I look at the health of the fish too. But I mean, you can get parasites in the meat. It's much more difficult, obviously. But I mean, if you cook it properly, you're fine, and I've never had a problem. But right. I am always concerned about those things nowadays more than ever.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why you can only hunt rabbit and deer whenever it's really cold. It's when the parasites die.
There you go. All right, my friend, this has been a pleasure. I want to thank everybody for watching. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock, we have Judgment Call. Cheshire's back from vacation. We are, actually, we're kind of still working out what we're going to be talking about, so I'm not going to give it out yet. But anyways, join us tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific time, for Judgment Call. Call that as you like. And let people know that if they want to see more Call-In Theist shows, we're here. We're going to start doing some things.
Yeah, much fun, man.
Bug Jim for it. Say, hey, Jim, we want to talk about theology on Steve's channel. And like, okay, let's make it happen.
Yeah, I never want to talk about theology.
Whatever, biblical stuff. To me, it's all the same, man.
But I enjoyed being on, man. Thank you for having me, and much love to everybody watching. And if you can grow a mustache, you should.
You should, yeah. Link in the video description. Go subscribe to his channel. Good night, guys.
Good night.